Osama bin Laden's life is a study in extremes. Born into immense Saudi wealth and privilege, he was raised in a world of opulence, surrounded by the trappings of power and influence. As a member of the prominent bin Laden family, he could have chosen a life of comfort, business success, and respect within Saudi society. Instead, he made a fateful decision to abandon that privilege, turning his back on luxury for a path marked by violence, radical ideology, and conflict. He would become the world's most wanted terrorist, orchestrating acts that would shake the globe. His name, once associated with respect and affluence, became synonymous with terror and fear, forever altering the course of global security and international relations. Bin Laden's journey from a quiet, devout youth, immersed in religious study and discipline, to the architect of global jihad, is a story that continues to shape our world and haunt our collective memory. We'll trace his dramatic transformation, from the gilded halls of Saudi palaces to the rugged Afghan battlefields, where he forged alliances and honed his extremist vision. From building a vast terrorist network that spanned continents to orchestrating devastating attacks, his influence reached far beyond the Middle East, leaving a mark on history. The consequences of his actions were catastrophic. His legacy is one of pain, instability, and fear that still endures in many parts of the world today. Bin Laden grew up with every imaginable comfort: private jets, sprawling estates, and the privileges of a powerful family name. Yet he died isolated and alone, hidden away in a fortified compound, hunted by the world's most powerful militaries, and cut off from the world he once sought to change. His life was driven by a potent mix of religious conviction, deep-seated political grievances, and a relentless pursuit of his own vision of justice. At the core of his ideology was a profound hatred for the West, fueling a campaign of violence that would claim thousands of innocent lives. The stark contrast between his privileged beginnings and his violent, isolated end serves as a chilling reminder of how extremist ideas can take root and transform a life. His story is not just history, it's a warning. The consequences of radicalization can echo for generations, shaping the world in ways we are still struggling to understand and overcome. Born in 1957, Osama bin Laden was one of over 50 children in a billionaire Saudi family. Raised amid wealth and conservative religion, he was drawn more to faith than business. At university, his religious views radicalized, influenced by figures like Abdullah Azzam, who preached global jihad. While his siblings pursued business, Osama saw the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan as a call to arms. He used his fortune to support the Mujahideen, traveling to Pakistan to organize and fund Arab volunteers. This marked his break from family expectations. He chose militancy over business. For bin Laden, Afghanistan was the first battle in a global struggle to defend Islam. His wealth gave him resources, his radical beliefs gave him purpose. Here, the privileged son began his transformation into a militant leader. Afghanistan's brutal war against the Soviets was a turning point for Osama bin Laden, transforming him from a wealthy financier into a committed frontline leader. The conflict was not just a distant cause for him, it became his personal crusade. Bin Laden didn't just fund the war. He built extensive tunnel networks and training camps, lived among the fighters, and fought in fierce battles. His willingness to face danger head-on earned him a reputation for bravery and devotion among the foreign volunteers who flocked to Afghanistan. Alongside his mentor Abdullah Azzam, bin Laden helped create a vast network to recruit, train, and support jihadists from across the Muslim world. Their message spread far beyond Afghanistan, inspiring thousands to join the fight. The eventual Soviet withdrawal was seen as a miraculous victory. For bin Laden, it was proof that faith-fueled guerrilla warfare could defeat even the world's most powerful armies. This victory deeply shaped his worldview. When he returned to Saudi Arabia, bin Laden was celebrated by Islamists as a hero and a proven holy warrior. His exploits in Afghanistan gave him immense credibility and influence among radical circles. The war had also given him a loyal, battle-hardened network of followers, an army without a country, united by ideology, and ready for a new mission wherever he would lead them. Bin Laden's sense of destiny only grew stronger. He began to believe that he was chosen to challenge another superpower, and that his struggle was part of a larger, divine plan. The crucible of Afghanistan forged him into the leader of a global militant movement, inspiring others to follow his vision of jihad on a worldwide scale. His experience in Afghanistan became the foundation for everything that followed, shaping his strategies, his network, and his ambitions for years to come. In these remote mountains, the seeds of al-Qaeda were quietly sown as bin Laden and his followers laid the groundwork for a new era of global jihad. By the end of the war, bin Laden was no longer just a wealthy Saudi. He had become a living symbol of jihad, revered by his followers and feared by his enemies. After Afghanistan, bin Laden founded al-Qaeda, the base, to unite his network for future jihads. The 1990 Gulf War was a turning point. Bin Laden saw U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia as a desecration. Rejected by the Saudi royals, he was exiled and settled in Sudan, where his anti-American anger deepened. He issued fatwas calling for attacks on Americans everywhere, declaring the U.S. the far enemy. Al-Qaeda evolved into a global terrorist organization, aiming to provoke America into costly wars. Bin Laden's focus shifted from local conflicts to a worldwide campaign against the West. Bin Laden's al-Qaeda launched deadly attacks to show America's vulnerability. In 1998, truck bombs devastated U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing hundreds, mostly locals. The U.S. retaliated with missile strikes, but bin Laden survived and grew bolder. In 2000, al-Qaeda bombed the USS Cole in Yemen, killing 17 sailors, a direct hit on U.S. military power. Each attack refined al-Qaeda's tactics and escalated their ambitions. Bin Laden moved from soft targets to military ones, proving his threats were real. The world was on high alert, but few imagined the scale of what was coming. These attacks were preludes to a catastrophe that would change history. Bin Laden's war was building toward a terrible crescendo. The stage was set for September 11th. On September 11, 2001, bin Laden's war against the West reached its horrific climax, forever altering the course of history. 19 al-Qaeda hijackers, meticulously trained and prepared, turned 4 commercial planes into deadly weapons, executing a plan that had been years in the making. 2 of those planes struck the World Trade Center in New York City, collapsing the iconic Twin Towers in a scene of unimaginable destruction and global shock. A 3rd plane crashed into the Pentagon, the heart of America's military command, while a 4th went down in a Pennsylvania field after courageous passengers fought back, sacrificing their lives to prevent further tragedy. Nearly 3,000 innocent people from over 90 countries lost their lives that day, making it the deadliest terrorist act in human history and leaving families and communities shattered across the globe. The attacks shattered America's sense of security, leaving millions in disbelief and fear, and changed the world overnight in ways no one could have predicted. In response, the United States declared a war on terror, launching military operations in Afghanistan and prompting nations worldwide to overhaul their security policies and intelligence sharing. Air travel and daily life were transformed by sweeping new security measures, from stricter airport screenings to increased surveillance in public spaces, affecting millions of people every day. The attacks set the stage for prolonged wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, reshaping geopolitics and drawing nations into years of conflict and instability. Bin Laden's actions redrew the map of international relations, forging new alliances and deepening old divisions as countries grappled with the threat of global terrorism. September 11th was not just an attack on America. It was a turning point for the entire world, uniting people in grief and resolve and changing the way nations viewed security and freedom. The consequences were immediate and profound, as emergency responders and ordinary citizens alike rushed to help, showing extraordinary courage and compassion in the face of devastation. Bin Laden had achieved his goal, to provoke a global conflict and force the world to confront a new era of terror and uncertainty. The world would never be the same. The scars of that day remain, visible in city skylines, in policy, and in the collective memory of a generation. The hunt for bin Laden began in earnest, launching a global manhunt that would span nearly a decade and redefine the fight against terrorism. After 9/11, bin Laden became the world's most wanted fugitive, with a $25 million bounty on his head. U.S. forces nearly captured him in Tora Bora, but he escaped into Pakistan's tribal regions. For years he vanished, living in secrecy, using couriers instead of phones or the internet. Bin Laden released occasional video messages, remaining a symbol for jihadists and a haunting presence for the world. The US and its allies launched a relentless manhunt, tracking his network and searching for any lead. Intelligence agencies focused on his couriers, believing they were the key to finding him. Despite years of dead ends, the search never stopped. Bin Laden's operational role faded, but his ideological influence endured. The world waited, wondering if he would ever be found. The breakthrough would come from the shadows. Years of intelligence work led the US to a mysterious compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The high-walled, secretive house stood out, just miles from a military academy. Surveillance confirmed a high-value target inside. President Obama authorized a daring raid. On May 2, 2011, Navy SEALs stormed the compound, killing bin Laden in a brief firefight. The operation lasted less than 40 minutes. SEALs collected valuable intelligence and flew out with bin Laden's body, later buried at sea. President Obama announced the news. Justice had been done. Celebrations erupted in the US and around the world. For many, it was closure after a decade of fear and loss. Bin Laden's death marked the end of an era, but not the end of the threat. The world had turned a page, but the story was far from over. Bin Laden's death weakened al-Qaeda, but his ideology survived. New groups like ISIS emerged, filling the power vacuum and spreading even more violence. The raid that killed him became a model for special operations worldwide. Security measures introduced after 9/11 remain part of daily life. The pain of his attacks endures for thousands of families, and for his own who live under his shadow. His son Omar, who rejected violence, still faces stigma and exile. Bin Laden's legacy is a burden for many, a warning for all. He failed to achieve his goals, instead bringing suffering to millions. His ghost haunts a world forever changed by his actions. The lesson, the danger of extremist ideas is real, and vigilance is never ending.